What is up, comic book community? My name is Joe, and you're watching 360 Comics. I bought another collection, this one mostly ranging from the late 80s to the early 90s, and as I already mentioned on Instagram, it was very McFarlane heavy. You can tell that the guy that I bought these from was really into the Todd Father. And speaking of that guy, there's a great story about how I came across this collection and ended up buying it. Has to do with making connections and networking within the comic book community. So stay tuned for that story, as well as how much I paid. And of course, stick around to the end for the 10 best books in the collection. Don't forget to make sure you're subscribed to the channel, give this video a thumbs up for a like, and leave a comment down below, because that enters you to win this book for our 3,500 subscriber giveaway, Department of Truth #1 in a CBCS 9.8. So if you want to win this book, once again, all you got to do, subscribe to the channel, like this video, and leave a comment. And you can check out our other videos, leave comments on those as well for additional entries. Good luck. So this collection came to me through a buddy of mine in the local comic book community. We met about a year ago because we shop at the same LCS, shout out Brave New Worlds, and we instantly became friendly talking about comic books and comic book art and stuff like that that we all love. And he mentioned to me that he had a buddy of his that he's been friends with forever, since high school, and they actually worked together at an LCS back then. He still had all of his comics, but really wasn't a collector anymore, and was getting ready to move on from that and sell them. And he had mentioned this months and months ago, but I didn't really follow up on it. And finally, he hit me up and said, hey, my buddy's ready to move these. Can we make it happen? And the best part was, it just got delivered to my front door. They both came over. They brought the comics over. It was, I think, 6 long boxes and a short box, all from that late 80s, early 90s time period, for the most part. A couple outliers in there. But yeah, he had a full list of the books, and I made him an offer. He was happy with the offer. We discussed, and, we came to an agreement, and we'll talk about that number at the end. But let's get into the keys that I pulled out, including, like I said, at the end, the 10 best books. Starting off with Peter Parker, the Spectacular Spider-Man, number 90, second appearance of the black suit, tied with Marvel Team Up 141. And yeah, just a great key for that appearance, and obviously it's the first appearance in this title as well of the black symbiote suit. A couple issues later, we got Peter Parker, the Spectacular Spider-Man, number 98. This is the first appearance of the Spot. This is a book that has gone up in value, obviously, due to the Spot's appearance in Across the Spider-Verse, and assuming he's going to come back for the next movie as well, being it was a cliffhanger, I think that there's a good chance of this book holding some of that significant value that it gained. Then we're over to the main title, Amazing Spider-Man, issue number 265. This is the first appearance of Silver Sable. I think this is a pretty underrated book. Again, that's just an opinion, but I think this is a really underrated book. Then we're going up all the way to 298. We've got the first cameo appearance of Eddie Brock, but more importantly, I always talk about the importance of the key significances when there's multiple. I think the most important thing about this book, it's the first work of Todd McFarlane on Amazing Spider-Man. I think that's more important than a cameo of Eddie Brock, to be honest, especially because there's like some other questionable cameos. Then we got Amazing Spider-Man 301 a few issues later, that classic McFarlane cover. And really, this is just the, as far as keys, it's just a classic cover. It is an homage to the previous issue. And it's just it's McFarlane doing Amazing Spider-Man. You can't really go wrong with that. But those two books might be a hint at what is to come. But first, we got to move on to some X-Men. We got annual number 14 here, the first true appearance of Gambit. A lot of people call this a cameo. It's very clearly not a cameo, but anyway, there were some publishing issues with this book. If you want to hear about that story, ask me sometime. I'll tell you all about it because I've researched it to death. Then we got Amazing Spider-Man, Uncanny X-Men number 281, and you might have noticed there is a, upside down, boom, there is a certificate of authenticity on the back, because this book is signed right up there at the top by Whilce Portacio, one of the greats that ended up leaving Marvel and helping form Image Comics. Great book, and this was like the soft reboot after the Claremont run had ended after 16 years. Speaking of signed books, we got another one right here, X-Men number 1, signed right there on Wolverine by Jim Lee. Jim Lee's signature is getting harder and harder to find, not because there's not like a lot of them. He just charges a lot of money. I shouldn't say hard to find, but just expensive to obtain. Mainly because, again, he charges a lot of money for his signature, and it is a very sought-after signature, like McFarlane, and not quite as much as Stan Lee or anything like that, but it's up there with some of the greats. Then we got X-Men number 4, first appearance of Omega Red. You know this book. It's pretty plentiful, but it's still a really awesome key from that time period. Moving on now to some other Marvel properties. We've got one of the only older books, probably, this might have been the only Silver Age book in the collection. I don't remember exactly. Hulk 104, classic cover featuring the Rhino. Not really a key other than that, but, Silver Age Hulk book, it's got to end up on this list because it was among a bunch of 80s and 90s book. Then we got Iron Man 282. This is the first appearance of the War Machine armor, and obviously War Machine, very important character in the MCU, and we're going to be getting Armor Wars at some point. I don't know if that's one of the ones that's been delayed. I forget when that's coming out, but nonetheless, great book, and it's a high-grade newsstand copy. This book came out in the early 90s, so that is definitely not bad. Now, this one might go with me to New York Comic Con because cover artist Stephen Platt is going to be there. He doesn't do too many con appearances, at least I haven't seen him on too many lists, but I want to get this book signed because he is a phenomenal artist that only was in the industry for a short period of time, but he definitely left his mark. This book is expensive just for him on, being the cover artist. So it's definitely a really cool cover. And yeah, Stephen Platt, he does it well. In my opinion, and again, this is an opinion, and you can argue with me in the comments all you want, he does McFarlane better than McFarlane does McFarlane. They have a similar style, but in my opinion, I like Platt more. That's just me. You can argue with me. There is no doubt that Todd McFarlane has done some amazing things for comic books over the years, both with his time with Marvel and founding Image and all that stuff. But man, I love Stephen Platt's artwork. Then we got Ghost Rider number 1 from the 1990 run. First appearance of Danny Ketch, the second Ghost Rider, or third if you include the Silver Age Ghost Rider. But either way, this is a character that could totally show up. Maybe they don't use Johnny Blaze. Maybe they just use this character, or they could have multiple Ghost Riders. Who knows? Still a great book either way. We got Daredevil number 181. This is the death of Elektra, and often deaths are not very significant in comic books. This one definitely is. Despite her getting resurrected, 10 issues later, this is still like a significant book as far as, the death of a character goes, mainly because I think it was written by Frank Miller. And Frank Miller is the quintessential Daredevil writer. This is the quintessential Daredevil run. It introduced Elektra and really fleshed out the character of Matt Murdock, as well as introduced him to Kingpin and brought on Elektra and really amped up the popularity of Bullseye, who's also on the cover there. Then we got Giant-Sized Fantastic Four number 4. This was another random book. I guess this would be early Bronze Age that was kind of thrown in with these other books. This is the first appearance of Multiple Man, and yeah, it's just solid key from back then. And a hard book to find in high grade due to it being a thicker 68-page square-bound book. Last of the Marvel books before we move on to DC, we got Silver Surfer number 44. This is the first appearance of the Infinity Gauntlet, obviously an item in the MCU that has made major impacts, basically been the center of the entire culmination of that first saga, the Infinity Saga. And yeah, you can't go wrong with this book as far as, early 90s Silver Surfer stuff. This is the book to get from this run for sure. Like I said, moving on to DC next, there were only 2 books that really stood out that were DC, at least in this part of the video. There's, I believe, 1 or 2 at the end as well. We got Batman the Killing Joke. This is, I forget what number printing. I want to say 4th or 5th with the orange trade dress there, and you can tell what printing this book is by the color. There were 9 initial printings. Also, there's, I think, 5 hardcover printings, so a total of 14 printings. But as far as the paperback ones, there are 9, and like I said, orange, I think it's 4 or 5. Don't quote me on that. Green's number 1, I know that, and 9 is red. Moving on to the other book, and it's a book that often is in the same collections with that last one, The Killing Joke. We've got Vengeance of Bane, number 1, first appearance of Bane. These 2 books, they are almost always in the same collection because they were only a couple years apart, and they're very, very quintessential DC stories. Obviously, the first appearance of a pretty major character, and the origin story, and the most common origin story of the most popular major villain in DC. We got some indie books as well before we get to the higher value stuff. This was cool. Don't find this stuff very often. We got The Tick, number 1. Now, this is the 4th printing. It is not super expensive, but I definitely needed to include it in the video because it's The Tick. I love The Tick. I grew up watching the television show. Very cool book. And like I said, 4th printing, much more affordable copy if you want the first appearance but don't want to shell out all the money for the first printing. We also got a reprint, or second printing rather, of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. This one, issue number 3, and it does have a different cover than the original issue number 3, and is also a regular comic book size as opposed to the magazine size that the original first printings of 1, 2, 3, and 4 were. And yeah, great book. TMNT, can't go wrong. If you haven't seen the new movie yet, I recommend you go see it. I thought it was really, really good. Last book before we move on to the higher value stuff, the 10 best books in the collection, we got Judge Dredd, number 1. This is the first American comic book appearance of Judge Dredd. Remember, he started in UK Comics, and I found this book a bunch recently. In fact, I don't think I've ever had a copy of this book until like 2 months ago, and I think I have like 4 of them right now. So find these in claim sales coming up soon. Speaking of, I'm doing a lot of claim sales this week. Actually, tonight, Wednesday, 9 p.m. on The Experience, but the big ones are going to be this weekend, Friday and Saturday, both starting at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, and 20% off everything. Anyway, let's get back to the books. We got the 10 best ones. We got to put these down because we got to make room for the heavy hitters. How about this? This is a great book. Any McFarlane collector is going to want this one. Batman number 423. Got those numbers mixed up. This is the first printing of the book with the Batman head right there. Make sure, if you're looking for this book, it's got the Batman head or a newsstand barcode. The newsstand barcode was only the first printing. The second printing, I forget what it says. It says something there like, it's good to read, or something like that, or DC Comics are fun to read. I forget exactly what it says, but the Batman and the barcode, those are the first printings. Then we got some ASM, of course. You knew there were going to be some more because there were some earlier. This one, obviously, ASM 252, first appearance of the black symbiote suit, and it's a decent shape newsstand. It's not super high grade. You know, this thing's not going to get the 9.6, 9.8, but it's probably VF. I got to look at it again and figure out a grade on that. And then bumping up to issue 299, I bet you thought that this was going to be there. You probably knew this was coming already because there was 298. This is the first full appearance of Eddie Brock, as well as the first cameo appearance of Venom. And some people will argue that it's the first appearance of Venom. Realistically, he's on one page. I call that a cameo. You can argue with me in the comments if you would like. Otherwise, we can just agree to disagree. Speaking of Venom, we got the first full cover appearance in issue 316. Great book. Awesome cover, McFarlane goodness, and I'm on the hunt for this book at a 9.8. I have a couple copies that I have to send in. I think I saw Spine Tick on this one. I got to check again, but I definitely really want a 9.8 of this for my personal collection. Of course, every collection from the early 90s is going to have at least one copy of this. I was actually surprised there was just one. I thought there were going to be multiple of this one because I feel like everyone at that time was buying multiple copies of this book. Amazing Spider-Man 361, first appearance of Carnage. Great cover, classic book, awesome first appearance, but has sunk in the market quite a bit, mainly due to a couple things. One, the movie, not so great. In fact, not great at all. Also, it really, really spiked up high, and I think it came down hard because of that. I feel like it's bottomed out. I don't think we're going to see any more of a correction on this book. And I think it's probably a great time to pick it up. That's just my opinion. You don't have to listen to me. Do your own research. Then we got Secret Wars number 8. And there was actually a full run of Secret Wars, full run of a bunch of things. Secret Wars, Crisis on Infinite Earths, Infinity Gauntlet, stuff like that. I think Secret Wars 2 is in there as well. Obviously, this is the best book in the Secret Wars run, so I decided to just show this one off and mention that there was the full run. It was actually like a mid-grade run, so it's going to be pretty affordable. I'm going to probably have it up in one of my claim sales this weekend, so look out for that if you're looking for a full run of Secret Wars. Now, there was a second copy that is actually a high-grade copy of Secret Wars 8, so that's really awesome. We got the full run that's, mid-grade, so that's going to be more affordable. And then I've got a high-grade one for someone who's looking for that key, looking to send it off to CGC or something like that. You probably guessed this book was in here as well. If you know the 90s, we had that first, the true first Gambit. This is the book that is more significant for Gambit, mainly because he's on the cover. It's also chronologically the first one. It was supposed to come out first. There is printing issues, yada, yada, yada. You know the story. Or if you don't, like I said, ask me about it. Or just Google it or something. I don't care. Do whatever you want. This is the sought-after book for Gambit. This is the by far the most well-known one. When people think first Gambit, they think 266. It's really the second. That's all I gotta say about that. On to the last two books. Now, these are the two best ones, and this one is already accounted for. So if you were looking for this book right here, Amazing Spider-Man 300, First Appearance of Venom, I am sorry, this particular copy has already sold. It sold in my claim sale last weekend. Congrats to the new owner. I actually just pressed it, and it's looking mighty nice, and then it's going to be shipped off tomorrow. So great book. There's not much more I really need to say about this. Such a classic cover, been homaged a billion times, including in the very next issue. Yeah, Todd McFarlane goodness, and major key, as well as this one. This is a major key as far as modern stuff goes. We got New Mutants 98, the first appearance of Deadpool. You gotta love it when you have both of those heavy hitters in a collection from this, like, late copper, early modern era. Those are the two books you really want to, at least as far as like mainstream books. Obviously, you want Crow 1 and Bone 1 and stuff like that, and TMNT 1. But as far as Marvel and DC stuff, these are the two books you really, really want to have. Amazing Spider-Man for 300. I almost said 400. What? And New Mutants 98. First Deadpool. Now, this I put last because I think this is a better book than this one, only because of condition. Obviously, at a 9.8, grade side by side, the ASM 300 is going to be more expensive than the New Mutants 98, but this particular copy is very, very sharp. I have this thing at likely getting a 9.6. That is a really nice copy of New Mutants 98, which is up for sale right now. So, come hop in a claim sale sometime. But yeah, great books. Obviously, these two are the kings of this collection. Let's talk about what I paid for it. This was a friend of a friend. So, I made sure to give an offer that was maybe a little higher than I would have given. I ended up paying $1,100 for this collection. Again, it was not just the stuff that you saw here. It was 6 long boxes, and there was a lot of good to decent stuff. There was a lot of, ASM filler issues that those sell, minor keys and stuff like that, the $5 and $10 books. So there was plenty of stuff that's gonna make this collection pay off. Obviously these are the two big ones. I won't be recouping my money on just these two books. Sometimes you buy collections and 1 or 2 books, 3 books, whatever, recoups your money. This isn't going to quite cut it. I'm not going to get $1,100 back off of just those 2 books, but I'll be using a lot of these books to get my money back and then make some money on top of that. And that is why I was fine with that price point. It's not going to be a home run collection. This is going to be a double my money collection. You know, anywhere from $2,000 to $2,500 is where I think I will end up being at the end of this collection. And you know what? Maybe if some of these end up being gradable copies, I can end up making more than that. But you never should depend on grading books. That is a piece of advice that I will give. I don't think it is a good idea that you depend on grading books in order to, make your buck. The only exception is when it's like very obvious, like, you know, if it's like high grade Silver Age stuff, or, you know, pristine books that the 9.8 is worth a significant amount of money. Always be careful with that. You never are, you never are guaranteed a grade. And at this point, I'm definitely rambling a little bit, but great collection. Shout out to my buddy who hooked it up, and shout out to the original owner for letting it go. Tell me what you think. Let me know in the comments down below. And like I said, come to the claim sales this weekend on Instagram and get 20% off. I'm going to be trying to move as much as possible. So I hope to see you there. And until next time, turn the page, wash your hands.